Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to take a look at a high-level overview of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, also known as MBTI. Perhaps you've come across it as the 16 personalities. It has a lot of different names out there that people come across it with, but really we're talking about this framework made up of 16 different personality types, and each type is made up of a 4-letter code, such as INFJ or ISTJ. There's a load of different possibilities, 16 of them, in fact. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at what is this tool, what is it made up of, how is it constructed, and start to just talk about a little bit of the framework to break it down a little bit more. If we haven't met before, my name is Gary Williams. I am a certified practitioner of this tool, of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and have the unique privilege of serving changemakers and entrepreneurs and organizations in using tools just like this, personality and purpose, to help them become unstuck, to gain clarity, to go out and to create a better future for our world. And so I'm excited to dig into this topic with you today. So, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. We know that there's 16 different personality types. Those personality types are made up of different preference pairs, or sometimes we'll call them dichotomies. So there's a 4-letter code that you get as your personality type. And for each of those letters, there's 2 different options. So we're looking to start with either E or I, S or N, T or F, and then J or P. Now, some of the language that we're using here is a little bit archaic. It's been used for a while, and sometimes it's had different forms and different meanings throughout the years. So one of the things I really want to do today is dig into the true meaning of these terms. I find time and time again that people are actually misusing them, or there's a lot of misconceptions or stereotypes about these different preferences. And so today, I want to dig in and get to the truth. So, the first pair, preference pairs, we're looking at extraversion versus introversion. Now, this has nothing to do with social skill. This has nothing to do with your confidence. This has nothing to do with your ability to be a socially influential person. No, this is all about how you direct and receive energy. Those with a preference of extraversion prefer to direct their energy and receive their energy from the outer world. That's everything outside of you. So as a result, in the outer world, it tends to be that they're focused more on the things around them. So sometimes it's data. Sometimes it's exploring different possibilities. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's sensory experiences, but it's an outer world focus. Whereas introversion is focused more on directing and receiving energy from the inner world. So a lot of times when people think of introversion, they think, oh, introverts are shy. Oh, introverts, they could never do public speaking. Well, actually, that's not true. Those are behaviors that may or may not be correlated with the idea of introversion. But when we're talking about introversion in this framework, we're talking about energy. If an introvert is directing and trying to gain energy from the outer world, they're actually going to get tired out. They're going to be depleted. It's going to feel like they're pouring out of their tank. And so the whole idea here, when we're looking at extroversion versus introversion, we're trying to identify where do you most naturally direct and receive your energy. Now, this can influence some other behaviors. And a lot of times, depending on the context, we can see a wide variety of applications here. Sometimes it has to do with the speed that people will take action. Sometimes it has to do with the way that people recharge, or maybe hobbies or interests that they have. There's lots of possibilities of other things that this could correlate with. But the heart of what we're talking about is energy. Where do you direct and receive your energy? And that is what introversion and extroversion is all about. So this next part of this framework then is looking at sensing versus intuition. And in the framework here, we use the letters S for sensing and N for intuition. Now, you're probably pausing me right in my tracks saying, Gary, you don't know how to spell. Intuition starts with I. Why are we using N? Exactly right. Don't overthink it. It's simply because we used I to represent introversion. So to keep things clear, we use a different letter, N, for intuition. And really what we're talking about here is how you prefer. Again, it's a preference. We all are going to have access to both, but it's a preference of how you prefer to understand or take in or receive information. So when you are learning, when you're taking in and understanding information, you're going to have a preferred way that you're receiving this information. Those with a preference of sensing usually prefer things to be a bit more concrete. They're going to be using their five senses, so to speak, to take a look and understand the world around them. They're going to be focused usually more on the specifics, usually more on the here and now, focused a bit more on the details and seeing kind of the black and white practicality of things. Whereas on the flip side, those with a preference of intuition usually are thinking about pattern recognition. Intuition in this framework is often looking at how different ideas may or may not be connected together, and is often trying to draw a conclusion, to draw some type of theory or framework or concept that might be zooming out and looking a little bit more at the bigger picture. Someone with a preference of intuition is going to be much more comfortable with ambiguous information that may or may not fully fit together and feel concrete. So here with sensing, S, or intuition, N, we're simply looking at the way that you take in and receive information. Now, the next pair of preferences, we're looking at thinking and feeling. Now remember, every human being has the ability to think and has the ability to feel. And so your natural response here is probably both. Which you're not exactly wrong. But in this framework, going back to the idea of Carl Jung, we know that there's an innate preference. One of them is going to feel a little bit more comfortable, specifically in how you most naturally make decisions or come to conclusions. So when we're looking at someone with a preference of thinking, they're often going to be looking at things from more of a cause and effect perspective. They're going to be using logic to think about the implications. It's almost like they're taking a step back and out of a situation to objectively analyze what's happening in a situation before they step in and make a decision. On the flip side, someone with a feeling preference is going to be more likely to be thinking about the impact of a decision or a conclusion on people. Maybe it's themselves, maybe it's their family, a community, their coworkers, other people in general. Perhaps they're using personal values or trying to make decisions out of a place of harmony. There's a lot of different variables here, but they're going to be focused more on the impact on people. Again, it's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just two different ways that people will approach making decisions in their world. So this often will start to play out in people's communication style as well. A lot of times when we have a tendency to give feedback or talk about differences or want to be helped with something, this is rooted in the way that we're making conclusions or drawing decisions and making choice in our world. The final pair of preferences that we're looking at is the concept of judging versus perceiving. Now pause. I want you to erase any prior knowledge about this out of your mind, okay? There's a lot of misconceptions, and again, the words are a little bit archaic. They're a little bit old, okay? It doesn't mean that judges are really judgmental. It doesn't mean perceivers are really perceptive. Maybe a little bit. We're not talking about judgmental people and perceptive people, no, okay? We're really looking at how you show up and approach the outer world. So someone with a J preference, judging, is going to approach the outer world with wanting to come to closure. They're going to want the outer world to typically be a bit more structured, and they're going to want predictability in plans and schedules in the outer world so that they have the freedom internally to be able to explore and do what they want inside of themselves in their inner world. Whereas on the flip side, when we're looking at P, a perceiving preference, someone with a perceiving preference is going to like to keep things open in the outer world. They're going to like freedom in the outer world. So behaviorally, sometimes this shows up looking a little bit more flexible or spontaneous in nature. Sometimes they might be waiting until a deadline to be able to make a decision or to go about something because they want to keep their options open. What if something better turns up? They want to keep that option open before getting locked in and gaining closure on something too soon. Again, we all are going to have access to both, but someone with a preference of perceiving wants freedom in the outer world so that their inner world is usually a bit more structured in the way that they think, feel, and experience their world internally. Again, not judging people and perceptive people, we're looking at how you show up in the outer world. Now, this will often play a major effect in the way that people will maybe show up in deadlines, whether it's for a work project or a school project, in the way that you plan, in the way that you're trying to approach options of what you're going to do, whether it's for play or for leisure or a work activity. There's a lot of possible implications here. But where the real superpower comes in play is when you identify your 4 preferences and put them together, we start to actually see a whole nother layer. So stay tuned on a next video when we dig into a deeper layer of this system called the cognitive functions. And we're going to dig in deeper there, which really just means the wiring of your mind. So if you are pretty new to this tool, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, I'd love to invite you to even check out my book. I actually wrote a whole book on this framework called Choose Your Best Life. It's available out there on Amazon. Feel free to check it out. And it's all about how you can use your unique personality type to overcome self-doubt, to really think about major life decisions and big things that you're going to be encountering in your life. And using your uniqueness, your personality type to help overcome that layer of doubt. So I would love to invite you to check that out. If you know your Myers-Briggs personality type, this is a channel for you. So I'd love to invite you to 1, subscribe to this channel. We're going to be talking a lot about personality and purpose. And 2, comment below. What are your Myers-Briggs personality type preferences if you feel comfortable sharing? I'd love to see who's following along and checking out these videos as we go along. Again, so good to chat with you about this framework. Really just a high-level overview today, and we'll be digging in a lot deeper to various aspects of this as we continue moving forward. Thanks for being here, and until next time, take care, everyone.